This dovetailed into a place I didn't know it was going to go, but we're going to get it back on track with our next live guest. We've got Jason Provonsha joining us from Steam Logistics to talk a little bit about what's going on in the markets right now. Jason, you guys are directly across the street from us, so howdy from across the corner. Great to have you on the show, and let's talk a little bit about this market. There's kind of been this debate on if we are turning back around or if we're just coming out of the worst of the worst. And as a brokerage, where are you guys seeing this go, and what are you starting to do to kind of capitalize on maybe this turnaround?
Yeah, it's for sure been a really rough market. Thanks again for having me on, by the way. And next time I'll walk the 100 yards over to the studio and say hello. But yeah, it's obviously been a rough market. And I think in particular, coming out of the last couple of years that has been such a hot market, it can feel a little bit like whiplash. And this year has been just pretty stubborn in terms of the lack of seeing any kind of real progress just from a kind of macroeconomic perspective. But we are starting to see some little green shoots pop up, so to speak. I think that the full comeback, I think everybody feels like is going to go into 2024. But we are starting to see little incremental increases, and that's been really nice to see.
And being a brokerage, you're on the bleeding edge of movements in the markets. As we see these green shoots, you normally want to, headcount is the biggest controllable factor. Does it make sense when you start seeing enough green shoots? Is that when you want to go, okay, I need to start bringing in some new reps? Or do the reps that I have that have made it through this hard time, because it's really hard from a sales standpoint on any side of the aisle, what's kind of the strategy? What do you look for when you start to see things thaw out?
Well, I think right now, and many companies are in the same position, we all vastly increased headcount during the past couple of years. And so we still have plenty of capacity with our current staff to take on these small incremental increases that may come as things start to develop in a better manner. Certainly, if it starts to look dramatically better, which again, we don't think that's going to happen until next year, then you need to be prepared. But all year, our focus has been on market share, even given the headwinds that everybody's dealing with, primarily through lower overall volumes and some substantial rate deflation. Our volumes are actually up year over year. So we're up about 35% overall as a business, and our domestic product alone is up over 65%. So we feel very good about that strategy and just continuing to stay close to our customers, retain their business, and then go out and try to win market share against our competitors.
So one of those places that you can really win market share, especially if you're in a space where you're not necessarily growing existing accounts or finding new customers to come in, is diversifying your offerings, right? Maybe looking at offering some LTL services or getting into reefer services or even specialty freight. Is that something that you guys have started to see? Steam is, of course, massive. You guys have seen a huge amount of growth throughout the last 2 years, which gives you the ability to really diversify and not spread your folks too thin. Is that something that you guys have been working on, is getting into maybe different sectors of freight and finding some successes there?
Yes, we are in a unique position in that we are very diversified, and not just within the domestic space. We certainly have all modes of domestic freight, but we have an international ocean and air arm, a customs division. We have an intermodal division, domestic, a robust drayage brokerage. So not being one-dimensional has been super helpful to us, and that's kind of core to our whole strategy, is to be able to provide services across the entire supply chain. And that's really been helpful this year as we've seen shippers begin to winnow down the number of providers that they're using that got sort of bloated during the tightness of the market over the past couple of years. And so their strategy is to try to find best-in-class providers to carry them through this next phase. And the fact that we can bring this diverse range of services to them has been super helpful for our ability to stay in those relationships and then expand into new ones as well.
And looking at aspects like technology, it's one of the big things we're seeing. We'll focus on visibility, truck lists, verifying and stuff. What are some of the thoughts as we're moving in? I spoke with one person, and the craziest thing they said was, well, we invested over COVID in technology the past 2 years. Now this is the year we need to make sure it actually works.
Yeah. I mean, you hear the phrase "never waste a downturn." Well, our approach to that has been a couple of things, but core to that has been investing in technology. And so we've put more into that this year than we ever have. And so as the market comes back, we feel like we're going to have a lot of new resources to do a couple different things. Efficiently get freight moved through this organization. And obviously, when you're thinking about efficiencies, you're thinking about how can we move more volume with fewer people and not grow headcount at the same level that you're growing volumes. And so that's core to the strategy. And then on the other side of it, it's customer facing. How do we give business intelligence, insight, context to what that data means to customers in a way that can help them run their businesses better? And then beyond technology, we're just trying to invest in our people and skill them up so that, I mean, over the past couple of years, we've hired so many people who are relatively new to the space, many of them. And so they particularly feel the whiplash of the boom times versus this down cycle. So we're trying to get them skilled up so that when it flips, that they're ready to go as well. Again, we kind of see this whole year as kind of a market correction and a reset. And so we're just trying to make the most of it and be ready for when it does flip.
So Jason, we've got about a minute left here. Obviously, everybody's kind of take on what is the flip of the market is subjective, right? Your performance indicator is going to be different to decide when you think like you're in the up cycle versus the down cycle versus the flat part. Is there a key indicator that you're looking to really say to all of your folks, hey guys, we at Steam here think that the market has turned because we saw this happen? Is there something that you're waiting to see happen, or is it just kind of going to be a gradual process for you guys?
I think it's a lot of inputs. I mean, we track some of the data that you guys put out on outbound tender rejections. I think that's a great thing to look at. I'm anxious to see if we see any little blip on the radar as we get into the final months of the year. As importers prepare for Chinese New Year, will we get a little bump there? What does post-Chinese New Year look like coming out in the spring? So there's not one thing. I feel like I have been consuming more information this year around the market and the economy than I ever have before, just because it's been so hard to read. But I think it's just trying to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening inside your business and then being aware of what your economic level and just trying to make logical decisions as you can.
Perfect. And Jason, as we're closing up here, if folks want to learn more about Steam Logistics, get in contact or check out the business, what's the best way to reach y'all?
I think steamlogistics.com. We're also very active on LinkedIn, and so our presence on LinkedIn is pretty robust. So either of those places would be great.
Send a paper airplane from the FreightWaves studio over to Steam.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Jason, thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.